Hi, I'm Casper,
Hi, I'm Thomas.
and we are talking games. Hi, and welcome to the second episode of Talking Games with me, Casper, and Thomas.
Hey.
Hi, Thomas. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm good, actually.
Huh?
A bit tired, but how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Also a bit tired, but soon Friday at least.
Yeah.
So,
Perhaps you should mention that when we're filming this, it's actually Valentine's Day.
that's true. Yeah, we're bad husbands, I guess.
No, we're not.
Yeah, so let's jump into the first segment, the highlights and pickups part. And I guess you can go first this time.
Okay, so pickups.
Yeah.
I've actually come across more games over a short period, or like since last episode, than I've come across in a long while. So the first title, it's all NES games, by the way. The first title is actually the classic of all classics.
Super Mario Brothers.
Super Mario Brothers.
Ah.
It's actually it's not mint condition, but it's a very nice, well-kept game. It has a couple of scratches, but the label seems very fresh and nice, crisp.
So you didn't own this game before?
Yes, I did.
Ah, okay.
But I mean, this is the most like the nicest
Okay, it's a better condition.
cartridge that I have. So the second game is Solstice.
Solstice. I've never played that, I think.
This game is actually very, very cool. It's sort of an isometric puzzle game, or puzzle platformer game.
Okay.
And maybe you can like cut in some gameplay. You can put some game footage over here or over here or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a very cool game, made by Rare actually. So it's.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the guys at Rare.
Would you say it's like a hidden gem game type of game?
Maybe, but it's actually a fairly known game.
Okay.
And here is one I know you like. Chip and Dale
yeah.
Rescue Rangers.
Yeah, I had that on my top 10 list actually.
I didn't own a copy of this game earlier, so this was very, very nice to have.
Yeah, definitely one of the best to play games on the console, I think.
Indeed. All the Capcom Disney games are great.
Yeah.
And the fourth one is actually a game that I owned back in the day, but it hasn't been on the top of my priority, and it's actually kind of expensive to come across. And here I really struck a bargain, so I'm very happy to have this in my collection. Star Tropics.
Star Tropics. That's a great game.
Great game. I love this game.
Yeah, me too.
Who haven't played it, it's sort of an RPG mixed with an adventure game and platformer.
Yeah, it's actually kind of weird. Like you have a yo-yo as the
main weapon is yo-yo, and then the baseball bat. And stuff. It's kind of cool. And the final game is also a great game. Adventure Island 2.
Oh yeah.
Love this game.
Yeah.
Very simple, very sort of arcadey kind of game, but man, I love it.
Yeah, and I think that game is has a fairly adjusted difficulty curve. It's not one of the hardest NES games. That was a lot of pickups actually.
Yeah, I know. I'm very happy.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I'll do my highlight. I actually don't have any pickups. I'm a bit embarrassed about that. But
no.
But I guess you could call it a pickup because I did buy the game on Steam Early Access, and the game is called My Time at Porsche.
Okay. Cool.
And it's since it's a game in Early Access, and it plays kind of like don't know if you played a game called Stardew Valley.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know about it.
like a
I haven't
Harvest Moon type
Yeah.
of game.
I haven't played it myself, but I know a lot of people who's
It's
been really addicted to that
it's
game.
great. It's great. I have like 100 hours in that game. But this game it's 3D, so it's a third person, and instead of like only doing farming, you're actually taking over a workshop.
Okay.
So it's more focused on crafting stuff and like go getting materials, and then you craft that for the different villagers in the village. And you
Okay.
still build up like relationships to the villagers, and you can expand your workshop, and you have competitors, and I think it like captures that charm about Harvest Moon and the Stardew Valley. Like I'll just play one more day, and then you just keep going.
Okay.
I'll include some gameplay footage. So, yeah.
So with a strong emphasis on crafting stuff, does it seem like it has a limitation on what kind of things you can combine into new stuff, or
I mean,
it feel very like creative?
I don't think it's very creative, because the crafting is kind of like, it's more like a factory kind of crafting. Like you craft different machines that can make certain tools and certain items.
Okay, so
and
you have like you need certain components, and when you have them, it's kind of obvious what the outcome would be. Okay.
Yeah. So it's more like you slowly advance, and you get more of these factory machines that can do more advanced items, because the game is set in like a post-apocalyptic world.
Okay.
So it's kind of like people are rediscovering our technology, because they're back into like the farming and like a more basic age, but then they're finding stuff from our time. So you find like, I found plans for a kind of simple bus, or a simple like a cutting machine or something. Then you build that, and then you can do like more advanced stuff.
That's actually a really cool setup, because then you can have like all the charm of what was old and ancient, but at the same time you can sort of progress very fast towards a bit like playing Civilization. Like you can have a very long period of time and have the charm of like each era's combined in one small package.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Cool.
I even though it's in early access, I still got a solid like 40 hours of it. So you can still like play a lot even now. Yeah, so let's move on to the next segment. Okay, so it's time for what are you playing, or what have you been playing? Not sure what's the best title for that yet. So I guess I'll start this time. So I took your advice.
What have you been playing?
Yeah, I took your advice from last episode and started playing Shovel Knight.
Yeah, such a great game.
Yeah, definitely. I do not regret it.
So how do you feel about having like had this game for such a long time and you haven't been playing it?
Yeah, that felt kind of weird. It's so good. It's the controls are tight. The graphics are really great. I bought the Treasure Trove edition on Nintendo Switch. And I played through all the campaigns like fully. I played both as Plague Knight, Shovel Knight, and Spectre Knight. I can really recommend, like if you're only playing one of them, like except the Shovel Knight campaign, I recommend the Spectre Knight, because that has the most like, it's more different than the Shovel Knight campaign. The Plague Knight is quite similar to the Shovel Knight campaign.
So it feels more like a small DLC than the Spectre Knight edition.
Yeah, the Spectre Knight edition feels almost like a kind of sequel, or a prequel.
Okay.
It is a prequel actually.
Okay.
But the Plague Knight is more you just play through the same levels but with a different character basically, and but the story is different, and it's actually very good in that one. I would say it's better than Shovel Knight.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that's.
So how many times did you catch Shield Knight?
Okay. I have no idea. That part was confusing
every
for
time
me.
except once.
Yeah. I didn't really get like the logic behind that, because each time they pile up more enemies in that kind of mini game. It was a fun addition, but it was like kind of random.
Yeah, but I mean, it actually kind of sets up sort of the relationship between Shovel Knight and Shield Knight. And it sort of feels like it's in the dream world. Every night he saves this girl. He's desperately trying to save her, and he dreams about it every night.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I can kind of see the story point in it, but for like a player, it was kind of like, wow, what's happening now?
Yeah. I remember the first time. I was like, what, really? But.
Yeah,
edition.
Yeah, great nonetheless. A really good game. I really recommend it if you like that 8-bit kind of era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're into like Disney NES Capcom games, you will love this title.
Yeah, definitely. DuckTales fans play this game.
Indeed.
So, what have you been playing?
I've actually been playing a NES game. But on my 3DS, not on my NES console, because I don't own this game. It's quite expensive to come by, and it's a really good game. Not one of the best, but really good game. I've been playing Mega Man 5.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason behind why I've been playing it is because I've just started to a quite big project to remix all the music from the Mega Man 5 soundtrack. And I think it's like 21 tracks or something like that. So it will probably take me a good half year to finish this project.
Okay.
Because I move in a very slow pace once I start. But so I wanted to play this game again and get the vibe and look at the stages and feel something for each Robot Master and get a sense of the story once more and so on.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I think Mega Man 5 is probably one of the least memorable games.
Indeed.
Indeed. I can't really even think of any of the Robot Masters from that game.
I mean, some of the Robot Masters are more outlandish than in Mega Man 1 through 4. I mean, like Charge Man, who's sort of a locomotive that has like this toot signal, like toot, and then rushes forward and backward. That's kind of strange, but very, very endearing and funny at the same time.
I'll have to check the list of Robot Masters.
I can actually, I know them by heart now.
You do?
Because I've been playing it. So the first, if you go from the top left, you have Stone Man. Then you have Gravity Man. And then you have Crystal Man. Then you have Charge Man. And then you have... what's the one on the right? This feels strange. I should remember. It's not Starman. I think maybe it's...
Planet Man.
No, it's not Starman. It's not... I think maybe it's Gyro Man.
Gyro Man, yeah. Yeah, that sounds familiar at least.
And then there's... I think it's... Oh.
Definitely.
But I actually... The other day when I played the game, I finished all the Robot Masters and I moved on to the first castle stages. And then I took a sort of a break to do something else. So I have that to look forward to, like the final stages of the game.
Is it a hard game? Is it harder than the previous?
One of the more easier games.
Okay.
I think mainly because there's not quite so hard. The bosses are not quite so hard. it's I think except Mega Man 2, it's quite easy to figure out which power up will go on which boss.
Okay. Yeah.
And such. And I think from Mega Man 4 and beyond, it's quite easy when you have the Mega Buster that you can charge all the time and just plow through the stage.
Yeah, so. And you have the glide as well.
Yeah, but I mean, one of the big deals that makes this a great game, even though it's not quite memorable, is that the stage design is very, very good. I think it might be some of the best stage design in the classic Mega Man games.
Okay.
I mean, it's great stage design in Mega Man 1, 2, 3, and 4, but they tried to top themselves in this game. So on Gravity Man stage, you have the shifting gravity. So then you run in the ceiling, and then you shift back to the floor, and then you run some more. So they got kind of creative with that.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Diversity between the levels, or okay, yeah. So let's wrap up and jump to the next segment.
Yeah.
So today's main topic, is game collecting. So I think I'm going to start off by asking you, Thomas, why did you start game collecting?
Well, the first time I can sort of go back and say I was actually aware that I was collecting, it must have been back when I first had the NES, I didn't think of myself as a game collector. I did think of myself as a gamer, or a guy who liked video games. And I mean, every Christmas, every birthday, I wished for more games because they were quite expensive here in Sweden. But we did have quite a few games, me and my brother. But I didn't view myself as a game collector. I think the first time I viewed myself as a game collector was sometime in my teens, when I started collecting Sega games quite seriously. And at that time, it wasn't so expensive to buy used games on Sega Mega Drive, because this was a couple of years after the release of PlayStation and Saturn. So a lot of people have moved on to the 32-bit consoles. And so the Sega games and the SNES games, the prices went from quite high to quite low very fast. And so I built up quite a big collection that I eventually sold and bought a PlayStation. But I've almost recollected all those games. I didn't sell off all my collection back then, but quite a huge chunk of it.
But why did you get those games? Did you get them because you wanted to play the games, or did you get them in the just having them in your shelf?
No, I think I've never been collecting games in a sense that I see some kind of status in having a particular title, or just like trading games. I haven't been into trading games. I've just been into these are the games that I like. I want to have them in my collection. And then I've been slowly piling up. I mean, you can see the bookshelf here.
Yeah,
there's movies at the bottom, but I have quite a fair collection of there's Mega Drive games at the top, then there's Nintendo games, and then there's PS2 and Xbox 360 and Wii, and then there's PlayStation 1. So, and I actually have quite a lot of games that I don't have in my shelf as well, that I feel in some way or another are not deserving of the shelf or not.
Okay. I think for me it was, getting back to a kind of childhood dream. Like you
Mhm.
you had the toy catalogs and
Yeah.
like the game catalogs, and you
Yeah.
saw all those games, and there was like no way that you could get all of them.
Indeed.
And then when you got older and you got your own income,
Mm.
you kind of started like emulators and stuff like that kind of got popular again, and then you were like, I could probably buy some of those games in one of those old consoles that I used to have.
Mm.
And then you did that, and then you started like, oh, this is like you get reminded of your childhood.
Yeah.
And then the games, of course, they're quite expensive now, but they're still cheaper than they were back then.
Yeah. At least some. At least
At least some of them.
most of the titles.
Yeah, not all of them. So then I kind of just started like purchasing some of them, and I think some of them I may have gotten just for the purpose of having it in my shelf, but
Mhm.
but most of them I tried to buy games that I used to own or that some of my friends had
Yeah.
that I played, so that I borrowed from them. I tried to buy some of those games.
Yeah.
So mostly like games I remember were really good that I wanted to play again.
Yeah.
And I think for me it was also like having the real console was always more fun than having an emulator and playing.
Indeed.
Because I feel like an emulator, when you have everything, it's not like, then you don't want to play anything.
Yeah.
It gets too much.
It's a bit like when you're creating something. If you have too much of something, then it becomes nothing. But if you have a certain selection of something, then it becomes more attractive or more valuable.
Yeah, definitely.
So quantity has a lot to do with how you feel about something.
Yeah. And I also like. I mean, it is the feeling like of plugging in a cartridge in the console and like booting it up. It's there's something like special about that. It's kind of hard to explain, but
it's kind of a ritual, really. If you think about like daily rituals, like things that you do that you don't necessarily have to do, but you kind of do it anyway because you've always done it. Like taking up a cartridge and blowing the cartridge, it activates like all these memories, and you think about like when you got home from school and you had like wet clothes on and you just threw them off, slided down the hallway and blew in Mega Man 2 or whatever and pushed it in, and it was a sense of like wonder and
definitely
joy.
But that actually, that kind of brings me into a point that I know we have talked about it before, but it's like the physical games versus downloadable games, because like if I compare to my computer, for instance, then almost all my games are on Steam. And I mean, there's good and bad things about that. Of course, like I'm in the like, if Valve decides to shut down my Steam account, like then I'm basically screwed. Or if someone hacks my account and steals my password or something. But then again, like I'm not subject to stuff like disk rot and bit rot, like because I mean our cartridges and especially our CDs won't last forever. Yeah. So how do you think?
Maybe we should just briefly explain the disk rot and bit rot.
Yeah.
The concept.
Yeah. So
to those who are not familiar with it.
Yeah. So like disk rot is something that will eventually happen to every CD that's out there, and that's basically that the material itself degrades by scratching or by being exposed to UV light or like any kind of wearing and tearing, like even being read by the disk machine, like a PlayStation or whatever, it wears the CD down, and eventually like bits, like the actual data will get corrupt. So it might not break instantly, but it will start glitching, and there may become like bugs because the code will be incomplete. So the CD will in itself, the physical media will in itself be useless in the end. And that, I mean, that happens to all things. Like nothing lasts forever. That's physical.
And I think when it comes to like disc-based systems like PlayStation and PlayStation 2 and Xbox and whatever, like GameCube, a lot of these games in the future, I think the way people view emulation will be different. I think emulation will in time become sort of a way to preserve like these games, because like you say, the disc-based systems will eventually, like the games will eventually be corrupted, and like the material will decay and stuff. So emulation could be a way of maintaining those games and like preserve them for future generations.
But that, I feel like that's almost a factor that puts me off from collecting stuff like almost all modern games, like except the Nintendo Switch or the 3DS. I mean, they're CD based, but like cartridges generally have a better, like they're more sturdier and they don't decay as fast, depending a little bit on how they have saved the game data. But most of them will probably outlast at least us.
So they really should have thought this through and made like all the disc-based systems around vinyl discs instead of like CDs. Because if you think about it, like you can have a vinyl CD that a vinyl disc. I mean, that's from like the 60s, like the early 60s or the late 60s, and you can play it, and it sounds just as good now as it did back then.
I don't know if those are subject to any disc rot, but they may be sturdier actually.
I don't know. But but I think plastic, like most disc systems, like discs, are made out of plastics, right? Or is it some other material?
I mean the important part is, I guess, the chipset. I mean.
So I guess it in the end it all depends on the quality of the plastic on which the data has been burned to. And I'm not sure if those RAM or RAM memory, what that's actually produced of. But I read up like NES cartridges. They have like the RAM in those are supposed to be like you can only write to them once, so you kind of like they have switches like you almost burn through them like physically. They are like set like that. But some newer like consoles might have like a rewritable memory card in them, and that is dependent on having a small charge that will degrade by time. So those aren't as sturdy. But I mean, the problem is like, would you pay, like for instance, for DuckTales 2 or something, like a rarer instance, or maybe like even more extreme example, like taking an expensive game for the PlayStation 1? Is it worth buying it when you know that this disc might not last for more than 10 years more? I feel like that's a bit off-putting in the collecting. But I actually stopped looking for PS1 games. I remember it was a couple of years back that I actually bought a used copy of an old PS1 game from the internet. And when I got it, it was actually a joy, because this was a game I couldn't afford back in the day, and I didn't know if it was good enough to buy it. but it is a great game, and I'm very glad that I bought it. But I feel like this will probably be the last PS1 game that I buy. I genuinely felt like I will never use my money to buy another PS1 game, even though I probably would like to have these games. But I mean, if it just feels off-putting, like you say, and it feels wrong in a certain sense. So.
But yeah, it's a hard like decision. I know we talked about this about movies as well, like buying movies on like Google Play or something, versus having like the actual Blu-ray or DVD.
Yeah.
And I still enjoy having a Blu-ray or a DVD.
Yeah.
But there's also like the problem that what happens if there's a new kind of media, like
is it better?
Yeah, like all our VHS tapes are useless now.
Pretty much.
Yeah, like I don't own a VHS
I still have
player.
a collection.
Yeah, me too. I have a big collection at my mom and dad's. But do you have a VHS player?
No, not anymore.
No.
Actually, it broke. I think we threw it away. I'm not sure, but it started to have like these big issues. And when you put in a VHS tape and it come out looking like pasta, like all scrambled.
Yeah.
You have to like grab a hold of a pencil and then start.
And it's also like the quality.
It's a good sign that it's done.
And the quality of those VHS tapes would be so bad on a modern TV, so like it would be unwatchable.
But I mean, I think when it comes to like tape as a media for data, I think like both VHS tapes and like cassette tapes that we had in the 80s, they are actually quite good. But most of the cassettes are cheap or like low quality, and most of the players that we had playing these cassettes also were cheap and had low quality. So if you had like a really, really expensive good CRT TV and a really, really expensive good VHS player and a really, really expensive good quality VHS tape, it would probably be quite on par with today's standards.
Maybe. I haven't thought about that.
I think the difference is that like VHS tapes, they were analog. And digital, there's quite a big difference between analog and digital images when it comes to video.
Yeah, that's true.
I think one of the main things that is the saving grace with the new modern way of handling video and images is that you have much higher bit rate, so you can have like higher frame rate and better quality and sound and stuff like that. But I think analog could actually, it depends on the resolution on the screen. It has the potential to go how big you want, and you won't lose any resolution.
Okay. Yeah, but so if you didn't have anything in your collection today and you wanted to start collecting, where do you think you would start? Yeah, and no, like your game collection. So if you didn't have anything, where do you think you would start if you wanted to start today?
Yeah, I think being myself, I think I would have started where I started a couple of years ago to collect like the old Sega Mega Drive games, the Sega 16-bit games that I played as a kid. But I mean, in general, if you want to start collecting games, I would suggest like any any game on carts, like NES, Nintendo 64, Sega Master System, Sega Game Gear, like any cart-based system is a good place to start.
Yeah, I think if I would have started, I would probably pick the NES. But that's because I grew up during that era. But I mean, if you're a younger person, I probably would go with something like 3DS or Nintendo Switch. I really love like the portability.
Yeah, and like it's a Nintendo DS as well.
Yeah, you can play Nintendo DS games, and if you have a Nintendo DS, you can actually play Game Boy Advance games.
Yeah.
So
a lot of great Game Boy Advance games as well.
Yeah. There are a lot of good systems, but I can see like we're kind of falling back to Nintendo.
Yeah. That's the source.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, if you want to get away cheap, it's probably easier to pick something like Xbox or something, because when you go to a flea market, those are the games I see there, like Xbox 360,
PlayStation 2.
Yeah, you can find them in the Facebook Marketplace, stuff like that. But yeah. So yeah, do you have anything else
on game collecting?
Yeah.
Well, I was actually kind of curious if you had like say like a kind of rare game, like a sort of the holy grail of gaming in your collection.
I actually checked. Won't call it a holy grail or anything, but
I'm not saying like a general holy grail, but your holy grail.
The bad thing is that I sold my like original NES and my original SNES to buy like newer consoles all the time. But I checked my PS3 collection actually, and I have a game called 3D Dot Game Heroes.
Yeah, that's a good.
And I have that physical release actually, and I saw that was like kind of rarer game. They didn't sell as many in the physical version.
So there wasn't such a big like amount of game in the first when they first published it, right?
Yeah.
They were more
a small kind of the publisher, I think, or developer.
Yeah. And they were kind of heavy leaning on distributing the game digitally anyway. So
yeah. So do you have like a?
Yes, I do. I do have my personal holy grail, and I can actually, if I just reach back here, I can show you what it is. And it's one of the best game buys that I've ever done. Let's see here. Here we have it. It's actually a very good game as well. So it's kind of rare, it's kind of valuable, and it's also very good.
I thought you were going to pick that.
I love that I bought this game, and look, it's got the manual and everything in it, so it's complete. It's not a great condition, but I mean, I've been playing this game quite a fair amount, so I've been wearing and tearing it myself.
Yeah, it's such.
And I actually bought this used copy for only 120 Swedish crowns.
Wow,
that's not a lot of money.
No, it's not. That's
and
like
I think
$12.
This must have been like 98 or 99 when I bought it, and I've been keeping it and playing it ever since.
You actually gave me kind of a good idea for a main topic now, like our best games ever. Like choosing it, because that would be on my list as like one of the best games ever, actually.
It is actually one of the best games ever.
Yeah, I think so as well.
You can say that, and I think a lot of people would agree with you.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, back in '97 when this game was first released, I think it came out. It came out the same year as Final Fantasy VII, and just the year before Metal Gear Solid. So this game was actually kind of forgotten, by the mainstream, because it was a 2D game. Mm-hmm. Most of the games back then were 3D, so this wasn't pushing the envelope in any way. So people are, it's just a 2D game. I don't care.
Yeah, no, that game is like a game changer for like the Metroidvania
Indeed.
category of games.
I think us gamers who are into this genre have this game to thank for so much.
Yeah, for so many other great games.
So many other great games were inspired by this game.
Yeah.
Ah, man, I love this game.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap up there. So thank you, Thomas, for this episode. So, yeah, see you next time. Bye.
Bye.